So what we want to treat today is database. So um, now we're going to start from MySQL. So what is MySQL? So MySQL is a database system used on the web. So MySQL is a database system that runs on the server. So now MySQL is ideal for both small and large application. MySQL is fast, reliable, and easy to use, and MySQL is standard SQL. So MySQL compiles on number of platforms and is free to use and download. So and is developed and distributed and supported by Oracle Corporation. So MySQL is also named after the co-founder multi Windows daughter My. So now we can't talk about PHP or any programming language without talking about a database. So the database, like we say, is actually where you store information um, about your user. Also, information that you use to do what so information that you use to perform some activities for your user. So um, so there are a lot of things you can store inside a database. One of them is the user information that you use inside of the website to improve. For example, one of the information, like for example, you can store things like the price. If you are creating a website, a e-commerce website, in the database you can be able to store. You can be able to create a space where you can store prices, name of a product, pictures of product. So when you do things like that, you can go inside of there and it will give you that privilege to do what exchange. If your user want to edit, or the admin want to change the image inside of the user sees, or the image of the product, what the admin need to do is go to the database and do what, uh, remove what the image there and put another one. So we are actually the admin will not actually go inside of the database literally. So the admin will have to you as a developer will have to write a code for the admin to do what, when he click on that code, that particular element or button, it will trigger what, a delete or update, if that's what you want. So other things you can store inside of databases, the product, customer, and some customers and others. So so like I said, the database, the if you are creating something like an e-commerce website, we usually store the prices, the pictures, the any information concerning that product, that particular product. We store it inside of the database. So for the admin will be doing what, going into the database to exchange it. Now, me saying that the admin will go inside the database, he's not going to go inside the database and just access and be deleting it inside the database. What he will do is, based on what you have created, you will create an admin table for him. So you create an admin table for the admin. So when there will be like things like button, update, and so many things you want to do. So if you click on update, so what it does, so what it does is that now that update, when you click on that that update goes into the database and will change whatever is in that database cell and put in the new one that the admin is trying to put. Now for that, for the thing that does the job in between, that goes to the database and remove, that goes like an errand guide that goes to the database and perform that job, is what we have what we call the query. So we use query to do a send information to the database. So we use that query. When we query the database, we tell it to do what? Do this certain thing. When the user, when the admin click on that delete button, that query code will go to the database and do what? Say delete. If you click on update, that query will go to the database and do what? Remove for information there. So another thing again we can use the query to do is that we can use it to select information. Now for you to be able to do what? Now if you get into some website, when they say edit profile, when you go into the edit profile, you find out that the user information, the person who owns that particular page, his information is being displayed there. Now for that to be possible, what we do is we do what? Go into that info into the we send a query to the database to do what? Bring out the information about the user. So if you bring us, maybe we want to display it there so the user will be seeing it, or maybe we want that info, use that information and do something else. So the query also serve like a, just understand this query. We query the database to do what? Do some certain duties for us. So how do you connect database? So we have the MySQLi and we have the PDO. So MySQLi stand the idea stand for improve. So but what we are going to be using throughout our lecture will be this MySQLi. So so now the reason why you have this the one called MySQL is because previously we were using MySQL. So I think now is no longer in use. So what we use now is the improved version, the one MySQLi. So you will find out that most command we're going to be writing will be MySQLi, not MySQL. So now let me just go into our exam. So let me bring my exam. So now looking at this exam, the first thing we usually on is the Apache. This is the server in which everything is run. So the Apache is the server where we run our PHP, and even the database also run on the server. So now the MySQL is actually our database. So when I click on this, so I need to click on that to run it. So now I will have to click on admin. So if I click on this admin, it will open the database for me. So if you are the one doing this, you find out that this place is it's not going to be as much as my own. So I've already written some these things are called database. So your own may be around that 5 or 6. So now so I think all this information you can go and check it out. The server type we're using is MariaDB. So our user, at least for this local host we are using, is just at root at localhost. So now we are going to be using this local database to create our database or accept our user information and store it. So now when you are done creating the database, you are done creating the website and you are sure it's working. Now what we do is that we do what? Extract the database you created here and do what? Go and put it in the online one. So we usually have the online database. So we don't actually use this local one for our website when we host it. So when you want to host it, the hosting space usually provide you the database where you are going to store your user information. So now let me bring you an example of a database. So when I click on this is a database. So this one here, this is a database. These are all tables inside of the database. So if you look at this now, we have what? A user is the user's information. So if you look at this, so these are all columns. So now we are still going to come again into this stuff and show you how we can manipulate the database, but I'm just trying to show you the overview of how a database looks like. So So now let me go back to our so so first thing is first is, like I said, we are going to be using, now there are three patterns we're going to be using. For now we have the MySQLi object oriented, and we have the MySQLi procedure. Procedure just means that you're following the regular pattern of just writing code. Now but the MySQLi object oriented means that you're using object OOP to write it. Now I'm not going to be using the OOP now, this object now. I will have to explain all this database using what the procedure for you guys now. So when we start creating the project, we are going to use this OOP and create the project. So and still we are still going to tweak after we're done with database. We are still going to explain what OOP really is. So now let's go straight in. How before you whenever this is how it works. Before you can be able to, whenever you want to write a project, you need to do what? We always have a control room that connects your website to your database. So now in every website, so you can just have a place called, okay, let me just use this one called DB. So you may have a, like you can see here, we can have a page called controller.php, but let me use this DB. So I'm going to question mark upon the PHP. So now let me use this. So most time we don't usually remember it, so remember all this MySQLi code, so you can just come back to this place if you forget it. So now so like I said, we have three. So we have the PDO, we have the PDO, we have the object oriented, we have the procedure, and we have the PDO. So I'll be using the procedure to explain this. So now all I just need to do, I'm just going to copy this code and I'm going to paste it instead of my database, so instead of my page. So this is it. So this thing is to use to connect it. So here in this part, all we just need to do is, for username, you can just write root. Whenever you're using so whenever you're using XAMPP, when you're in the production mode, so for your username, for your server name is localhost. That's what you're using here. So but for the username, you just put root. Go to your database. Alright, I think I've closed it. So all you just need to do is you put root here. So we don't actually we didn't put password for this into this database, so we don't really need to put anything there. All you just need to close it, so there's no password. So now when you go to the online, when we are done building a website, this one, why I'm doing it, putting the password empty and assigning this root, is because that's what our database is. We do not put password for this XAMPP database. So when you go to online, you will always put password. This always, like, it's compulsory that you put password in the online one. So when you put password in the online, whenever you are trying to open the database online, you register there. So you register with your username and password. So when you come, you rather than putting root here, you put your username. That's for the online one. So for the password, you put your password that you're using, registering it. But now we are using the local one. We don't have a password, and the username is just root. So now the next thing we are doing is that we're using this MySQLi connect. So we are using this MySQL. We use the MySQLi connect to connect to the database. So to connect this page, this particular page, with this database, we use the MySQL. It's an inbuilt function. So now you are going to see us using a lot of inbuilt functions. So So we're going to see use a lot of MySQL I inbuilt function. Always make sure that the I is there. So now now we have what we are doing now. We are just, instead of the MySQL connect, now passing what, the server, our username, and the password to connect it. So we are saying if it's not connected, we should do what, close the page, that is die, close the page and print out our error. So print out what, this string, say connection fail, then also print out the reason why the connection failed. So this is an inbuilt function that prints out error in case the error fail, in case there is an error connecting the database. So but if there is no error, do what, echo successfully. Now I know you may be expecting to see your else here, but sometimes in programming you don't really need to put the else. First you have written the main this thing condition, the next thing here could be the else. So now let me copy part. So let me copy part. If there's an error, it's going to tell me there's an error. Let me minimize. So copy part, come up here, Ctrl V. So for me, I'm going to put the local host, enter. So you see it's connected successfully. So this is always like important thing you have to write in your page before you start, whenever you want to connect it with the database. So it's connected successfully. So what we want to do is we are going to continue writing all that stuff. So this shows that this page now is connected to the database. So now next thing we need to do again now is we need to create a database. So you can see here I'm going to create a database here. So the way I'll create a database, I'll be creating it from the code. So we're going to use the code version first. After we come and use the analog way by creating it from the database. So the next thing we're going to do is going to go back to my. So now how to connect the DB. So I'll come to connect DB. So connect DB. Now remember to use the procedure. Always look up in case you are using this. So always make sure that you're not copying the object or the PDO. So make sure you're copying the procedure. Now, so now next thing we're going to do is I'm going to copy code, this one from here down to this point. So this is to connect. So we have already written the other one. So all we need to do is copy from here to C. So this is to connect database. So here I'm going to remove this connected successfully. So I'm going to remove it and replace it with my connect DB. So this code to connect the DB. So now this code to connect the DB is, so what we are saying here is say create DB is an inbuilt function. So create database, then the name of your database. So let me call the name of my database okay, let me call it man. Okay, I don't really need to start with the caps lock. Let me just write man let me give it a name like as if I'm writing a company. Let me call it Vim. Okay, finance. So let me just write it as if it's a company name. Now I'm going to use the finance as the name of the name of my database. So now it's always advisable to use this. It will make it easy. It's not that it's always advisable that if you are creating a website for a company called MMM, you make sure the database is MMM. so it will be easy like that. It's not that it's going to, if you don't write it, it's going to throw you an error. It's just that you write it so that it will be easy for you, so it will look very easy for you to be able to transport the database. So now Binance. So here now we are saying we are using this inbuilt function to prepare a query to the database if this thing is connected, if the database is connected. So what we are trying to do is check if it is what created. So if it is already created, what we are going to say is what database, let it print out what database created successfully, else equal what error creating database, and print out the error. So when I refresh, so when I go back, all I just need to do come here and do what, refresh. So you see database created successfully. Now let me go to my database. See that database? I'm going to go back here. So all I just need to do, you can just click here to refresh, or you can just click here to refresh, but I'll just click here, refresh. So you can now see, you can see the Binance here, so the Binance DB. So now let me go back. So now now that I have created the database, all I need to do is remove this code. Very important whenever you're following this pattern. Remove the code, otherwise this thing, if I go back again and refresh, it's going to try to create this database again. So if I try to refresh, it will try to create it again, and it's going to throw you an error. So always advisable to remove it. So now next thing, what I'm going to do again is come here. I have already created a database. Wait, before let me Control Z. So I need this name. So what we are going to do here is we're going to create a new variable called what, db. So this one here will house our db. Now make sure you always remember that name. It's very important, the name. That's why I return this back, so I don't make mistake in the spelling. So let me just copy it, Ctrl C, so paste it inside of here. Make sure you close it with your semicolon. So now I can remove this, so I'm going to remove this. So now I need to also add it here, showing that it's connected. So comma variable db. So now it's connected, now it's fine. So next thing we need to do is, if you notice when I showed you the database, whenever you create a database, you need to create tables. So you need to create the tables inside. So this thing I did here was, I'm trying to connect it direct to what, database. So I'm trying to connect to database. If the thing throw me error, if I don't put this, if I continue creating table, it will not know where I'm trying to create the table, and it will be throwing you error. So that's why I was just writing the database to connect it here. So next thing I'm going to do is so we are done creating the DB. So next thing we're going to do is create the table. So now create the table. Now this is the part we start seeing a lot of formula. Now all this Mysqli comes with their formulas to write it. So this is a formula for writing it. Now I'll just get an actual code and explain the formula. So now let's use this for procedure. So for creating table, okay, so we're going to copy for the only for creating table. Let me just copy it down to this point, Ctrl C, and go back to my code. So down here, anyway, I copied both this down. Let me just Ctrl V, paste it. So make sure you always have this close Mysqli close connection. So you need to close the connection, otherwise it's always advisable to close the connection. So now let me start explaining the table. So now this is the formula. So we have what we are saying create table. This is an inbuilt formula. So create a table, my guest, let me give it my own name. So I'm going to call it create table called table called users. Users. Probably this table is meant for the users. So um I'm what I'm doing is, now what we're doing here is what we are giving it the first column. This is what the first column inside of that table. So the first column will do what is going to be called ID. This is just a name, and it's a compulsory thing. You have to give the first column always the ID. So the first thing you're going to write there is ID. So we're saying that this ID should be what, an integer. So, and this integer, now what we are integer that can house what, six, maximum of what, 6 characters. Now what it means by 6 characters is like this. So you have what, this is 1 character. So let's say you have these 2 character, 3 character, 4 character, 5 character, 6 character. So so what we are saying is, but if this our integer cannot do what, exceed what, 6 characters. So it cannot exceed 6 characters, meaning, so the ID is just number of what, the user. Now in this situation is the number of the user. So if we is adding user 123, if he reaches this 6, any number, this number, it cannot go ahead. So I think if you want to increase it, you can just come here, increase. If you want to increase it, you just come here, increase the largest. In case if you are building for a code base where you have millions of users, you know that this one is not up to million. This is not up to million. You can just put, if you know the user is going to be very very big, you put the user up to 7 or 8 characters. So first using this because there's no how we are going to be exceed 6 character. So now what we are writing here, this last one, so what we are saying is what, auto increment. So auto increment, so what this auto increment is this auto increment is always passed on the ID. So it's always passed on this auto increment primary key, it's always passed on the ID. What it's trying to do is, now if when you create a database and the user is registering, you are not the one that will be waiting by your database every single time, waiting when the user comes in. You input that user inside the database. No, what you do is, when you create a database, you go relax. When any user that register will automatically do what, become number 1. So if another user register becomes number 2, automatically they will be giving themselves, the moment any user that comes to the website and register will automatically get what, the next ID continuously till what, it will probably reach the maximum number that you gave it, the maximum character, which is around that 600 and around that 100, and so around 100,000, right? That's for 6 character. So now the second column here, we have what, the first name. So we are passing first name for the second column. So first name to be our second column, and we are putting variable character. So we are saying that it should be variable character. What you mean by variable character means that this one we say that this ID will accept is only integer. But this one means that if you can accept numbers, it can also accept integers. So variable character means it can accept any of them. So now we are giving the character up to 30. Now 30 because reasonably most people's names are very very long. By the time somebody will be writing his name, you see it will even, sometimes some people's names are really really crazy that it might even exceed this 30 character. So it's always advisable to just give them that freedom to do or to put their name. So now this next one we are passing here, not null, means that when this information is getting to this place must not be what, empty. So this field must not be empty. So when a user is trying to fill in information, he or she must fill in this particular field. So the same thing goes for our last name. So last name variable character 30, and also must not be null, must not be empty. So the next one is our email. So email, now when we start using the analog way, I will also explain another way you can be able to make it unique, but for now let me just leave it this way. So all we just say is variable character, and due to the email is usually long, so the character might be very long. So we should just leave it around 50 characters. So the next one is what? Registration date. So the registration date. So what we are using here is time stamp default. So now what this code now does is that the moment that user register, so this is just like a date. You are creating a date for, you are creating the registration date. So you can call this reg date anything. All these things, all this except for the ID, but this, 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 you can call it whatever you want to call them. So now here we are using the reg date, or you can just call the date. So what we are saying is, immediately the first the user register, that time that he registered should be recorded inside of database automatically. So that this thing is going to do what? Record the current time that the person just registered inside of the database. So now we are now writing a error message. So if this we're now pouring the database, if this thing is already, if the database is created successfully, so this is to pour the database. If it is created successfully, it should send us a message say our table, so our table is users actually, so our table users is the table user is created what? The table user created successfully, else equal error creating the table, then print out our error. If there was an error, you just print out the error. Yeah. So what I need to do just now is do what? Refresh. So when I refresh, it tells me what? Table created successfully. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'll go into my database. Let's see if this table is actually created successfully. So look at the finance. So when I click on it, you see it now. You can see now a new table there inside of it. So normally if you create a database before, there was no table, but now we now have our users table. So I'll go back to my page. So since we have created a table, we need to do what? Delete this stuff. Otherwise, if we refresh again, it will try to create another table called users again. So we are going to delete this. So now, but I'm going to come up here again. I need to write, so I'm going to call this what? Users. So it's a variable called variable user. So variable user that accepts what we call our, so it's just a variable user I just created here. So what is the name of our table? We use what? Users. So I'm going to write users there. So we are now assigning that table inside. So I'm going to come here, close it, always important. So I'm going to get rid of this code. I've already created a table that I need. So if you want to create new table, you want to create another new table, you can just call the table and call the name, give it a new name, change whatever information you want to change. You can change the value here. So that one, I'm just going to remove this for now. Let me just be removing till the down so it not gets confusing. So now let's go back again. So another thing we need to create again is, so now the next thing we're going to do is to insert data inside of that table that we have created. So inside of that data, there is no table, there's no value inside of it. So we need to do what? Insert data. Now the formula to insert is, we have the insert into table, into the table name. Then when you write, this is an inbuilt function. So if you notice, we have been using the create table, the create database. So this one is also insert into, means put. So you are injecting into the database. So this is the formula. Then you write, whenever you copy this formula, you do what? Write the name of your table. For our own, is going to be users, is going to be here. Then the column here, so the first column we had is going to be it's supposed to be ID, but okay, I'm going to show you. So now let me procedure. So let me use the insert into okay, let me copy from here till this other part. So always make sure you are using the procedure. So we are saying insert into, so our own is users. So I'm going to get rid of this, my guest. You can still use the my guest if you choose. So now the first place we are inserting to, we are grabbing the first column, the second column, the third column, or the last column. Now you will be asking, this is not what we did when we creating table. When we created the table, let me even bring the table. I did not show you very well. I have not pressed refresh, so you know. So if I click on this table, you see that we this is our ID. So we have the ID, first name, last name, email. They have already been inputted based on the table we created before. So this is it. If you want to see the structure, this is it. This is what we did before. Now, but now in this situation, what we want to do, we want to inject. Notice that in this code we are writing, we are about to refresh. We don't have the ID, and we also do not have the registration date. If you could remember when I was talking about the ID, I said the ID do what? Uses hand to do what? Add. That auto increment we added in the ID makes it the value will be adding by itself. So we don't really need to put any value inside of the ID. Now for the wage, we added a command that the wage date will be giving us the current time. So the current time the user just registered. So actually the user is not putting the date, or we are not using our hand to put the date. The date is going to be inserting itself automatically. So now let's go back to our code again. Let's continue. So we are saying insert into first name, last name, and email. So what we want to, this is the value we want to insert inside of it, and you must arrange it respectively, exactly the way you write it here. So the John for the first name, Doe for last name, and email, this for the email. So now we're saying if it is created, do what? Equal this, created successfully, else say error, and then output us the error. So when I refresh, so what I'm going to get, so if I refresh, so new records created successfully. Now if you notice something, I did not come here and add what? User, like the way I did for the DB. So I don't really need to. At first, your only last thing you need to put here is just the DB. So for the users, the users, all you just need to do is write it here. Now you'll find out that when we start creating our website, you find out that you're going to find yourself using this. So you're going to find yourself using this, insert into, and so many other commands I'm going to show you again. So now let's go back to the DB again. Let's see. So when I refresh, all I need to do is refresh. If you click here, it will refresh, or any of here. When I click here, you see it just refreshed. So we notice now John have been added, and you see automatically it's now taking number 1 in ID. So John have been inserted. So now you see the time it just takes, exactly the time right now. So okay, let me insert multiple before I get the last D. We'll do it next time. So to insert multiple, just using the same, it's just the same code that we did. So I'm going to use this, copy from this side. I've already inserted this first one, so don't really need to. So now I'm going to remove this, replace it with this. So it's just the same thing, but you're just writing a different thing. So I'm going to change this to, so Ctrl D, Ctrl D. So our own is users. We are inserting this. So also let me add more data. Let me just not put 1. Let me add more. So this one will be for So so you can just keep increasing it as you choose to, as you like. Just keep increasing it. So let me remove this double thing that's here. I don't need it. So you can just increase and add more as you want. So when I refresh to tell me, oh, I have an error. Where do I have an error? Say undefined variable SQL. Wait, I think I made a mistake. Let me check. Okay, I know the mistake I made. Now, I know what we're doing here is using concatenation assignment. So the first one, we don't really need concatenation assignment in the first one. We just need the first one. You just need just assignment. So the other rest of the other ones, you can just put the concatenation assignment. So let me refresh. I think it's going to stop. Say on code Mysqli, you have an error in your syntax. Check the manual. Okay, correspond with. Okay, let me be sure this have not. Let's go with. Let me refresh and be sure that I've not created the user. So let me refresh again. Okay, there's no user. So why am I having an error? Okay, let me see mine. Let me remove this. Let's be sure. Okay, now let me refresh again. Let me refresh again. So let me refresh again. So okay. Okay, so on line 25. What is on line 25? Line 25. Line 25. Okay, let me check this. Okay, I was making a mistake. So this is we need to query for multiple. I was using the single one, so I need to query for multiple. So I was using the single, just single, to query for a single database. I need to query for multiple. So we need to use the multi because we are inserting multiple information there. So when I refresh, think it's going to work now. Why do I still have an error? Is it on cut session? Okay. It was closed. Alright, let me say online 25. Let's let me refresh this again. Let me be sure that this have not entered the database. Not in the database. Why do I have the error? I can't even really see the error. Let me copy this back again. So let me just copy down to this point. Let me be sure. So remove all this, replace it. So all I'm going to do is this is wait, I think I've understand my error. Let me Ctrl Z to return it back. I think I'll return it back. Let me right. Anyway, let me write it again. Let me be sure. So this is users today. Users. So I'm going to change this to this too, because I already have the information already inside the database. So I need to change this also again to, so be sure that I'm not making another mistake. Alright, let me refresh. Alright, I can't, I don't even, I didn't see the error that I made before. Is it because of this I removed? So now let's go and refresh. So when I go and refresh, so when I come here, just click here, you see the information already inputted inside the database. So you can also add more if you want. Just change the data and refresh. I cannot refresh 2 times. If you refresh 2 times, it's going to try to add it twice. So that's what you're going to see there, to try to add it twice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send you this code. So you go through it. So create your database. Then when we come next, we're going to continue from where we stopped. So we're going to continue from where we stopped. So see you in our next lecture.
Okay, sir.
All right.